Yeah, Mark, great having you here. It's fun to be together, seeing you again. I remember when we first met when you were at Memphis doing a great job and leading that team to the Sweet 16. So it's fun to be doing this together. One of the things that motivated me to start American College Placement was that I started just getting flooded with emails from these online recruiting services. And, I'm sure everybody on this call has seen them, and essentially what they do is they blast out thousands and thousands of emails to coaches all over the country without doing anything to screen them. So we're at Baylor, we're 5 in the country, and I'm getting 20 emails a day. I open it up and it says, "Hi, I'm so-and-so. I'm a UTR 8. I have a 2.5 GPA, and I want to get a full scholarship to Baylor." So you can see that, one, they didn't understand the level. Our number 6 guy was a 13 UTR. 2, they didn't understand the academic environment because you need to have a very high GPA to get into Baylor. And 3, they didn't understand the equivalency setup with men's tennis because no one has a full scholarship when you have 4.5 scholarships in men's tennis. So these people were being really taken advantage of, in my view. They were paying some money and frankly getting no service. And so my idea was, rather than do that, let's provide a personalized service that actually saves them a ton of time, gets a great outcome, and really is welcomed by the coaches. And really that's exactly what we've done. We've been doing it for a couple of years, and coaches now know that if they see an email or get a call from me that it's someone that I've already screened. They know that the player's the right level, the academics are the right level, and they understand the lay of the land. And the outcomes have been incredible. Our average scholarship has been $80,000 per client that we've brought aboard. And, we're talking about kids from 4.7 UTR and up. We've had a couple kids go to Power 5 schools, but most of our clients are mid-major, D2, D3, NAIA kids, and really, Mark, it's anybody that wants to play. If you're a hard-working person and you want to play college tennis, there's a place for you. And so I think that's a long answer to your short question, but yeah, I think that I learned that people need help. And they need help from someone that's willing to invest the time and the energy, and that has the knowledge and the experience to really make a difference. And, this, just like you, this is something I do 12 hours a day. I'm not on court all day. I'm not doing other things. I'm sitting at my computer and going out to tournaments and meeting clients face to face and investing in people full time to make sure that they get great outcomes. And I think that's, one of the biggest reasons that we've been so successful so far.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, the one great thing about you, you've been at the highest pinnacle of college tennis. You've won a national championship. You've had so many great players come through your program. And I think, from that experience, you realize like that, that doesn't mean, you're going to have a great experience or you're going to be happy where you're at. Right. There's a perfect fit out there for everybody. So I think that's great for you to know, to be able to tell your clients that, yeah, absolutely. It'd be amazing to go to Baylor, but ultimately it's not going to define your happiness. And we just need to focus on what's right fit for you. And if we get the right fit for you, ultimately, you're going to have a great 4-year experience. And that's what it kind of comes down to is still, for me, it's still the experience, because, there is a very small amount of players that are going to go pro from this and from the experience of college tennis. But, it's the memories, it's the Tuesdays and Wednesday afternoons that you're going to kind of remember when you get to our age, right?
At the highest level, when they recruit, they always talk about developing people for the pro tour. And if that's how we're going to measure ourselves as coaches, then we're failing miserably. We were pretty good, and we really, we had, I think, 5 or 6 guys playing the main draw of a Grand Slam, and we had a couple guys, make the kind of money that meant you didn't have to work anymore after you finished playing. But really what we were developing were accountants and guys who work in finance and doctors and lawyers and teachers. That's really who we're developing. And I think in that regard, we're incredibly successful. And I think that's something that players have to bear in mind, is that's really what college coaches are doing, is they're investing in you as a person and helping you have the best personal outcome that you can have, irrespective of the tennis, and I'm sure you've seen this too. I am just so blown away by the number of just great people that are coaching college tennis around the country. And it doesn't matter if you're at UCLA or Loras College in Dubuque, Iowa, or someplace in between. they're just some great people that are investing in young people and really making sure, again, that they have an incredible 4 years and beyond.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I remember going to, actually, when I was a college coach, going to a recruiting showcase, and, you know, I hadn't really got to know many of the Division 2 or Division 3 or NAIA coaches. And I got to spend a weekend with some of these coaches, shared a room with one of them actually. And it was like phenomenal. It was eye-opening to me just how much they actually cared about the overall experience. Yes, they want to make you the best tennis player. They want to win the most. But I was just so much more surprised at how important it was, the relationship for players to them. And it's something is that you definitely can get caught up a little bit as the more higher level you go in college coaching is wanting to win really badly. But, you know, it's still making sure that you still have those phone calls with your athletes 20 years from now, which I'm sure you still probably do, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, that brotherhood that you create is really what it's all about. You know, it's fun to win, but, you know, the trophies kind of dim and fade and the relationships, you know, continue to deepen and grow. So it's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So something else that we could talk about is you know, your son is currently right now at the moment actually going through the recruiting process. And so it's a pretty unique situation for you. You were the college coach, you're a recruiting agency, and now you're having to go through the process of being able to manage your son going through the process. Tell me some of the things about how that's been for you, and do you think that's something it's helping you actually with your business going through that process?
I wish I'd have done it before I got out of college coaching, because I've learned a lot. You know, I really have. I was not very good at working with parents when I was at Baylor and at other places. So I think that seeing the way the coaches interact with my son and interact with his parents has really opened my eyes to how, you know, building that relationship and that bridge with the family can really impact the impression that the student athlete has, and can really not only enhance the relationship, but certainly give you a leg up in terms of who you're going to get commitments from. You know, in fact, I'll give Mark Riley at Kalamazoo College. That's one of the schools that Karch is looking at. Mark left Karch a voicemail that was just blew me away. I mean, it was so good and so personal that I saved it. You know, and it talked about his family and him as a person, and what he's going to bring to the program as a person. And man, it was just fantastic. And, you know, Mark and I have been friends a long time. But boy, I wish I would have taken a tutorial from him a long time ago about how to do a better job with that. And I think that the way that some of the college coaches bring the prospect into the group has really been interesting to me. And with Zoom, for example, one coach, the coach at Whitman, who does a great job, had a team, what's the thing called? Risk. Had the whole team get on Zoom and play a game of Risk. And they had kids from overseas and all over the country. And wow, what a great way to make a student athlete feel like they're part of the group, you know, to get them into a competitive board game situation where they're trying to win and they're really getting after each other. So things like that, I think, have really been eye-opening and really instructive to me. And I think it's been fun, certainly, to sit on this side of it and see how this process plays out for my son.
Yeah, absolutely. And from everything we've talked about so far, it really, I will say, it comes down to managing expectations. If you're able to manage expectations, you know, on all sides, starting with the athlete and the family, and being so straight up and saying, look, you know, here's what we think is the best case scenario, middle case scenario. And, you know, this is maybe the worst case scenario. And we're obviously going to try to avoid the worst case scenario. We won't take you on otherwise if we think it's going to be a worst case scenario. But it's for me, it's like starting off with that process is really able to help manage the expectations and explain to the athletes and the parents is that, you know, you're not defined on how good you are based off the scholarship amount or the school number that you go to. And something I do with my athletes is I actually give them, you know, 1 through 7 of like the primary important things and then I ask them to rate what's important to them, like, you know, college coach, you know, location, team atmosphere, and things like that, right? And scholarship amount. and then the parents have to do one, and then ultimately, then I talk them through it, and then I ask them to see if they can come up with one together where everybody's happy, right? So already straight away, is after that one conversation with them, they're already thinking differently and what is important to them than they thought was important to them. And I think that's the key, is then once from that side is how do you then manage the expectations of making sure that we still have our relationships as college coaches, which are so valuable to us, to make sure that we still don't oversell or undersell the player, right? And that's just so important. And we have to walk that fine line, so because I think that is a huge strength for us. What do you think, Matt? Do you think that, the fact that you've had the coffees with the coaches, you've coached on the bench right next to the coach, it kind of gives us a little bit of a distinct advantage, right, over our competitors?
Night and day advantage. I can tell you as a parent, I'd want somebody that's walked in those shoes. I think it's hard for me to envision how someone trying to run a service like this who hasn't been a coach and can't talk the language of a coach and have the trust of coaches to feel like we're really going to be effective. And I think that's a huge advantage for guys like me and you that are doing this. And, what you're doing there with that 7-point scale, I'm smiling because that's a difference maker, and it sounds simple, but for somebody to walk a young person and a family through that is really invaluable, and I think the other part that I'm working with a lot is the academic piece, right? A lot of my clients want to go to elite academic schools, and we've had a lot of success doing that. We've had kids go to, Ivy League schools and Georgetown and Claremont and, some of the best schools. But again, you've got to have a plan. You've got to be organized. You've got to understand exactly what it is you're looking for, and you've got to pursue that, appropriately. And I think that piece too has been fun for me to watch the way that some families are prioritizing the academic side, and to see the way that that can be successful, and the way that you can achieve all your goals and all your dreams on that side, and the way that tennis can fit together with that. And often what happens is that your tennis can enhance your profile in such a way that you're able to gain admission into a school that maybe otherwise you wouldn't be able to. Certainly they can't get you in if you're not within a couple standard deviations of their normal student, but they certainly can prioritize you. And it's been neat to see the way that these coaches have some slots that they can use to get kids in that fit their program, that will enhance the university at large, that maybe don't have the test score or the GPA that is exactly matching up with the student body. That's been pretty cool.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. It's the same exact thing for me. Is I've seen a huge difference in the athletes I'm working with. Once I explain to them and give them a purpose and a drive and a reason to do well academically, and because, like you said before, is explaining to someone simply is that, hey, bottom line is if you can pull 35% of your academic scholarship money, your value of who you are as an athlete just goes way up, because we're working with that 4.5 if we're fortunate enough to have it. And as a college coach, it was all about how we manage that 4.5, and the value of a 25 to 35% academic aid is colossal. It's a full probably roster spot of importance to us, So definitely I've seen the athletes I'm helping is a huge motivating increase in why they're doing their academics. And because, obviously from an international standpoint, when we're competing in Ireland, say against an American GPA, which it's actually a little harder in Ireland to get a higher GPA on the same level as an American student. So we have to be really excel and be excellent in the classroom to even compete to get that academic scholarship money. So,
well, I think on that note, I think the elite schools, one of the things that a lot of people don't appreciate is that the rigor of your schedule is incredibly important. I went to high school in a small town in Kansas, and we might have had 24 kids with a 4.0, in my class. Getting a 4.0 was, indicated something, but it wasn't that great an accomplishment. Whereas the school that my sons go to, it's a private school, very tough. My son Karch has taken 6 AP classes his senior year, and those classes are incredibly rigorous. And the schools he's considering, they need to see that. They need to see that, look, your grades are good, but we need to see that you're in the toughest calculus class, the toughest chemistry class, the toughest computer science class, because again, that's a way that you can separate yourself, from the other kids that maybe aren't taking those classes or maybe don't have the opportunity, to take those kind of classes.
To obviously the biggest topic of what's going on in the world right now is COVID-19 and how much of an impact that's having on our industry, and something that, you know, I've actually noticed through social media. It's like some recruiting agencies out there are pretending like it's business as normal and like everything's moving like exactly like it was 6 months ago. You know, something I'm very honest and open with. I've told all the clients I'm working with is, once again, managing expectations, saying, okay, look, we're in a totally different environment than we were before, but, you know, how do we make sure that we're able to maximize this current environment we're in? You know, so tell us, you know, how do you think that's having an impact in our world when it comes to recruitment, and what are some things and suggestions that we think we can give the people out there?
Well, I think the two biggest things is, you know, I never really came across the practical application of the word furlough. You know, I knew the word, but I never really knew what it meant. And what it means, if you're a college coach and you get furloughed, then you can't work. So what's happened is almost all the college coaches across the country that are being furloughed for a period of time, maybe a week, 2 weeks, a month, 6 weeks, whatever it is, they can't work. They can't make calls. They can't return emails. They can't do anything. So what we're finding is a lot of the kids we're working with are reaching out to these coaches and they're not getting responses. Well, it's, again, there you go. That's why they're not permitted to give responses. So boy, that's done a lot to throw the rhythm of recruiting out of whack. Now, the other part, of course, is the dead period that keeps getting extended. You know, it just got extended yesterday through the
January 1st.
So you can't visit if you're in Division I. I mean, that's tough. You know, that's a heck of a challenge. The coaches can't go off campus to watch you, and you can't go on campus to visit them. So, boy, that's had an impact. You know, that makes virtual visits and phone calls over the Zoom way more important than they ever were before. And then the other part, right, is that the rosters have been expanded. You know, the NCAA came out and expanded, gave everybody that extra year of eligibility, and now all of a sudden, instead of people rolling off the roster and going on to whatever their next pursuits are, they're still in the program, you know, so a lot of space for kids in the 2021, 2022 class. There's going to be a limitation on the amount of opportunities that exist. So, look, man, it just means that you got to be even more organized and more committed and more engaged in the process. And boy, isn't Mark engagement in terms of our prospects we're working with such a huge key, right? I mean, I have clients that do a great job of sending a text every week to all 12 coaches that are recruiting them and just staying in touch. Hey, coach, I got an A on my biology test. Hey, coach, I had a good practice, whatever it is. And some that don't return calls and you know, and aren't on top of their emails. And man, that makes a difference. You know, if you're not engaged in the recruiting process, you know, again, you and I can help them. You know, we can kind of take the whip and make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. But, you know, that's incredibly important in this day and age to separate yourself and elevate yourself from the competition. You know, it's a really big deal. And what kind of impacts are you seeing from the kids overseas relative to the limited number of slots and the fear about visa limitations and some of the other things that might be popping up?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, is the attention to detail for me was really, really important, but it's gone up even another 2 levels. And, you know, there's nothing I'm taking for granted when it comes to any of my players that I'm helping. Like every small little simple thing, even down to the visa appointment, is walking them through step by step of what to expect, you know, how to answer questions, then walking up to the immigration office to get into the United States. Like, this is something that is not straightforward anymore, and it's something that you cannot take for granted. So, you know, I think it's become even more important about how each individual player and person needs to be taken care of to make sure you maximize the process and make sure there's no little blips along the way, because there's so many potholes right now at the moment that the international athlete that can fall into. And until you fall into a pothole, you're not going to realize that that's going to create more and more barriers to get out of that pothole. And so it's, you know, I'm learning so much, because every day brings a new situation for, I believe, in the recruitment process for people, and things are happening that never happened before that are suddenly I'm having to just experience from one experience to learn to the next one, you know. But I think, look, I had a big challenge when I came and I started setting up my business here. Okay, the challenge was, do I try to do it more outside of Ireland? But then that would cause me maybe to lose the purpose of why I created my company. My reason why I created my company was to make sure that I had people ready to go into university as freshmen. So the college coaches didn't have to spend that year undoing things to make them more of a team player, to get them academically more orientated, to realize that you need your academics to compete, you know? So at the start, it was a bit of a challenge because, you know, Ireland only has probably 5 to 10 male or tennis players that can really play college tennis every year. So I had to try to get into all sports to make sure that I could provide myself a living. And in the short term, I think that was a really big challenge, but I think actually in the long term, it's going to really pay dividends for me and everyone I'm working with, because now I realize it's really hard to do this with like 50 tennis players or 100 tennis players. To give someone that individual attention and to do exactly what's good, that's good by them, like it really takes as much time as it takes to do maybe 5 to 10, maybe, or even maybe max 20 a year. And actually recruiting agencies that are really well known talk to me a lot about this. And they were like, once you get over 25 of the same sport, it can be sometimes very tricky, you know? And those are people that were not even college tennis coaches. So, you know, if anyone can handle it, probably me or yourself could, because we've got so much experience in the industry. But certainly, you know, this is a bespoke service now. And now that COVID-19's here, it's become even more of a bespoke service, because in the bottom line, the end of the day, is that email that you send to the coach, that phone call you might make to the office, even if you go above and beyond. Like you said, there's 20 emails a day from the Spanish player, from the South American to the Canadian. You know, it's got to be more than that. And you've got to be able to prove to these coaches that they should take the time to really look into detail on each individual player, you know?
Well, I think the other thing that has really been an issue for me of late in talking to families is getting started early. You know, I think that, again, you really engage in the process by your sophomore year of high school, in my view. If otherwise, you're just falling behind. You know, you've got to be able to distinguish yourself. And I think that's one of the challenges for someone like you that's working only with international guys and girls, is that they really don't start figuring out that they want to go to the States until really late in their high school career. And so then you got to really hustle, you know, to kind of get on the radar screen of all the schools. And I think it's a huge advantage for the domestic kid, where you can kind of beat the international kid to the punch a little bit. You know, you can relationship with the coach for a year before the guy from Argentina or Brazil or Bulgaria is on the radar screen, and that's time that you need to take advantage of. So I think that's something that I think both of us are continuing to preach, and I think it's going to really make a difference moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so funny you just said it, because like that's literally been my message I've been preaching since I came back. And it sounds like a sales pitch, because people are saying, oh, well, like, why should I sign up 3 years from now? And I just keep saying the same thing to myself, because your competition is like, you know, if you want to be in line with your competition, you don't want to be behind your competition, then you should do something at the same time as what they're doing. So, you know, we have we've got a year called fourth year, and it's like our 10th grade. And it's actually a year that's NCAA compliant, and you can just kind of discover yourself year. So it's a year that you can really, really, you know, before I was trying to get them to study for the SAT, but that mightn't be a situation anymore, right? But, you know, in that 10th grade, you can really get a good head start and basically make your life a lot easier for 11th and 12th grade, because our 12th grade in Ireland is the same level as your first 2 years of college in America. So it's literally your 12th grade year is like almost a wash when it comes to your tennis, because you literally have to grind academically, you know. So, but anyway, let's move on. How about some success stories? Have you got any good success stories so far? What's one that already you're thinking that you'll remember for a long time?
It's so satisfying about what we do is the way that we can add value, right? And something that's happened through COVID that's been just, you know, terrible is the discontinuation of sports. So I had 3 student athletes that had signed and selected a school and were on track to start as freshmen and here the fall of 2020, that they discontinued their sport. So imagine you're ready to go, you've gone through the whole process, and here it is, you know, May 1st or whatever, and your senior year of high school, and then your team's gone. So Elodie Richard from Allen, Texas called me in tears. She chose St. Edward's in Austin, and found out just out of the blue that they're not going to have a team anymore. So what do we do? You know, and that's where a great example where I think what I do and what you do can add incredible value, because I don't know what you would have done without somebody like me. You know, what I did is I picked up the phone and I got out there and got my elbows into it and went out and found her a place. You know, we found her an opportunity that, frankly, in my view, was a better opportunity at Trinity, which is a really good school, school in San Antonio. And you know, one of the things that made Trinity tough is that as a D3 school, they didn't have athletic scholarships like they did at the D2 school she was looking at. But Trinity was awesome. They recognized that her opportunity was taken away because of COVID, and they stepped up and they increased her aid to match the package that she had at St. Edward's. And look, that would have never happened had she not had somebody in her corner. And the other one, I won't tell you all three, but Mothan was going to go to Connecticut and play. He's a guy from Tulsa. And same thing, last minute, boom, Connecticut pulls the program. So here's a guy, great student, wants to be a doctor, has chosen Connecticut because he feels like he can really do well academically and athletically there. And we had to do the same thing and get on the phone and really work hard to try to find him a place. And again, he upgraded. He's going to the University of Tulsa. He's going to be on the team at Tulsa. And he's going to do great for them. You know, big, strong guy, well, a lot of upside. He's going to get a lot better. So to see them go from just total devastation, you know, crying on the phone, to finding something that was even better than what they had before was incredibly gratifying, and I think really made me feel like what I'm doing makes a difference.
Yeah, those are good ones, and way to turn a situation into a positive, and I think that comes down to experiences. How many times we as coaches face adversity in when we were college coaches, and how you have to be able to just think on your feet and be able to turn something that you're struggling with into a positive, you know. I think,
Mark, that's something that comes through with you talking about the people you work with, is that you're committing to them beyond just finding them that initial school. You're not just trying to take a paycheck. You're actually committing to them, investing in them. And that's our philosophy as well. We're really trying to invest in the families and into these prospects and help them find a great experience, not just when they walk in the door, but beyond, you know. And I think you agree. We want to, you know, I tell them all the time, I want to get the pictures of when you make all conference, or when you win something, or when you graduate, or have any award that comes your way. You know, those things are going to make me feel good and make me feel like I was a small part of whatever success they have.
Absolutely. You know, and something, you know, something so small and simple too, as well, is, you know, we can help put those fires out before they start. You know, you've had that player walk into your office and say something that probably they didn't need to say, right? And how they went about saying it probably wasn't the right way. And can you imagine if they'd been able to have a conversation with a Matt Knoll before they walked into Matt Knoll's office, right? And to be able to constructively, you know, have an adult conversation and see things from the coach's perspective and then also their perspective, and how much less drama that could bring to your overall locker room as a result of having that. And that's why the thing is I kind of say, once we get the scholarship, it's so funny because the parents are like, oh, well, like, it's great, thanks so much, Mark, for everything. And I'm like, to be honest, we're just starting, you know, we're just getting going here, like, because, you know, they think that it's going to be all hunky-dory when they go over there. It's not. This is real life. It's messy. There's uncomfortable situations, and you're going to have to basically have, you know, moments over there where if you don't manage them the right way, you don't ask the right questions, you don't go about it the right way, you're going to be in potholes again, right? Yeah. So I think I think, you know, when we're talking about this is overall, it's like we both get this, you know, it's why is there value in us? Why is there value in our recruiting service? Well, because it's not like regular recruitment. It's not like we're getting recruited to a job. You're getting recruited as an 18 to 22-year-old student athlete who don't really get how to recruit themselves. So an email ain't going to do it. A phone call ain't going to do it. It's going to be a long process where you grind it out to make sure that you just, you know, you hopefully get as many things on that wish list for the athlete as you can. But then you manage the expectations to say that, hey, look, we hope we get all of this, but ultimately that doesn't mean that you're not going to be happy. Let's put the college coach and let's put the team atmosphere obviously number one, because that's really where the true happiness comes in, you know?
Yeah.
So
your good successes.
There's a few, but I feel back to I always talk about this one because this one just stood out so much for me. But there's a few and I never tell those other ones because of this one. But these ones were these twins, and these twins were now at Idaho State University, and they came to me basically, when I first started my business, and I evaluated them, and I was like, as much as I want to take these twins on, I just don't feel good about it in my heart. I was like, do I really think that they can get 100% scholarships? And so I held off, and I said, look, girls, I want you to do 3 things for me. I want you to basically play X amount of matches. I want you to take 1 private lesson a week, and I want you to up your training by 2 or 3 times a week. And they did every single thing I told them, and this is the first time I ever met them. Was they actually stayed behind my very first presentation, helped me clean up the room. It took 3 buses to get there. So straight away off the bat, I knew that these girls had some serious value, right? And they were very athletic too as well. So I just knew that if I helped them on the pathway, then in 4 or 5 months, that most likely I would end up helping them in the end, And so anyway, long story short, they did everything I asked of them and even more. They have dyslexia, which was the challenge for them academically. And ultimately, they actually ended up winning the doubles Irish national championships.
Wow.
And one of them actually made the semis of doubles and singles of a Group 4 ITF junior event after she signed with Idaho State. And it was just an incredible story because, still to this day, it's like, they're the kind of people who write me thank you notes and thank you letters and say, they're the one who, they paid me, but they're still saying thank you, and they're so appreciative and so grateful. And so those are the things that I value. It's my love language is when people, say thank you for things, because, it just means so much, because I believe I care a lot and when somebody shows that they care in return, then it just kind of gets my heart, so. That's a really good one, but I think they might have some competition, because I've got another really good one coming up yet, because this guy, poor guy. Have you ever seen Hurling? Have you ever seen Hurling by chance, Matt?
No.
Hurling, after this phone call, go YouTube Hurling. It's the craziest Irish sport you've ever seen in your entire life, okay? Literally guys with sticks, like lacrosse sticks, but they're fully wooden, and they can smack each other as hard as they like and get away with it, right? So this guy's a hurler and decides to he's a very good hurler too as well, plays for probably the one of the best teams in all of Ireland, okay? But the guy's not put enough time into his tennis yet, but comes and says, I want to go to America. It's my dream to get a scholarship to America. Fantastic academically. I was like, he's really behind the game, at this stage. He's not even ranked top 30 in Ireland, which is the equivalent of maybe being 500 or 600 in the USA, right? So I'm like, geez, okay, can we get this one? Do I really believe that this can happen? So then he shatters his leg playing hurling, fractures his leg, right? And basically we spent the whole of lockdown basically shadow swinging through video. And we worked on changing his forehand, because his forehand was a huge liability for him. And we just did his video yesterday against a guy, ATP 600, a guy who's supposed to come to me in North Florida called Pete Botwell, a great guy. And he's straight up competing with Pete Botwell, ATP 600 in his video. And it's just and it's ripping his forehead. So, he's a guy who might end up having to take, a different route, like I said, a bespoke way he might have to go to university even for Ireland to continue to bring his value up, to get what he wants out of what he wants on that list I provided for him. But I still think he's going to be a great pickup for somebody in 2021, because I've never seen a guy so committed to the process than this guy, and these twins are kind of similar. And that little thing where you bounce the ball on your racket?
No.
And you see how many times you can do it? He got 1,200 during lockdown because some guy in his club got 800 and he wanted to beat it. So I think these are once again, these are we go back to, okay, well, what do we do, Matt? Well, we basically make people understand that, okay, this guy, maybe in the last 4 years, what he's done isn't the same as what a guy in the ITF circuit's done. That's 250, 300. But it doesn't matter what you did in the past. It's what you're about to do in the future. And ultimately, it's where you're trending. And a guy like this, he's trending only this way, and he loves and he's obsessed with competing. And I think he's got those natural sporting tendencies that make great athletes. Now, will he be playing for Baylor one day? No, but once again, he will find himself a good fit of university where he's going to have a massive impact on his team. And hopefully as a result of that, he'll look back on his experience and say, wow, like that was worth all the sacrifice that I did, you know? So, I know
what a great guy. What a fun athlete to work with.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. Like I talk so much about him and those two, but you know, the success stories, I don't know for you, but they're the ones that keep me going. That's the ones that motivate me to go to the next one. But look, I just picked out some words here, and I'm not just saying these words just because I want to make you look good and make you sound good, but they're true because, you know, we weren't like, we didn't know each other phenomenally well, but something I always really respected about you, Matt, was like we came there and got our tails kicked every single time at Baylor when we were every time I played you. You had your guys so well prepared to play. Your courts were always very much suited towards your guys' game styles, which was incredible. And we came in there trying to do some stuff that definitely wasn't going to work. And but I had a few words here, you know, and the honesty is one of them. I think you're a pretty straight up guy. Like you've always been pretty straight up. You tell it how it is. You tell a tale to tale, right? And I thought, as I said, prepared there too as well. I thought your preparation of your teams, they were always ready to play. And I think, you know, hard work and high energy. I think, you know, no matter what, I mean, I remember thinking to myself is when I played you first, you'd won a national championship. Memphis is coming to town. We were nobodies at that time. And you were treating that match with the most energy and I've ever seen from like the coach at that time, right? And of getting your guys to be ready to play. And I think those are definitely some great attributes that are so important for the athletes I'm sure you're working with right now at the moment, you know, because those things really do matter in the recruitment process and they do help prepare you to basically be a great recruiter, right?
Well, I think that those qualities and the qualities that we're talking about with you and the heart you have for young people, you know, we can't guarantee anything, you know, when we sign these prospects because that's against the NCAA rules. So all we can do is say, look, this is who we are. You know, look at our track record, look at what we've done, and believe in us. You know, and we're going to believe in you. And again, we're going to give you all we've got. And now, thankfully, we've got a little bit of a track record in this industry where we can show that we've had 100% success. But we're going to bring that same preparation and honesty and frankness and work ethic, you know, to this that we brought to college coaching. And again, it works. You know, the truth is in the proof's in the pudding. We're finding places for every kid that we're working with. Thanks for everything you're doing over there in Ireland. And when I come visit, I want to see one of these games you're talking about where the guys beat each other to death with sticks. So put that on the calendar if I ever get over there. I'm
going to send you a YouTube link when we get off this phone call because you won't actually believe when you see it. It's ruthless, this game. Okay. So